Welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for the 9th of July 2020. We'll follow the agenda as posted in the issue in the TC repo, which was issue 890. Before we get started, any announcements that people would like to share?
There was one that Anna, I think, had in the issue.
Right, we have a number of new nominations. Let me just go back to the issue for that. All right, we have 4 new accepted nominations and 3 currently open ones. I guess, do we need to mention the accepted ones before they're onboarded? I can't remember whether it's before or after.
I think we can just tell people to look at the issue if they want details or something.
Okay, so yeah, you can go to the issue and there's 4 people who are been accepted as the nomination's been open long enough, and 3 others which will probably hit that fairly soon. Okay, the only other announcement I had is that we had discussed here about some sessions or a summit on the next 10 years of Node. We had a kickoff at the Collaborator Summit a couple weeks ago, and I've set a follow-on for next week. It's captured in Node.js/Node 34260. So hoping that, we had a good number of people show up for the discussion at the Collaborator Summit, and I'm hoping we can keep that momentum going. Okay, so let's move on to the issues which are tagged for the agenda then. The first one was proposal, create a triage team to manage the backlog, number 34054. We had discussed this a little bit last time, but we didn't have Jarish, who I think is in the best position to kind of outline that, and so I'll let you take that away.
Yeah. So basically, this is a discussion that came out of the presentation we had a couple of weeks back in the Virtual Collab Summit. The proposal is to set up and enable a triage team, basically, who is responsible for performing triaging, which essentially means labeling, performing a first pass analysis on the issues which are new ones, do a basic problem determination, or alerting the relevant component or platform teams as applicable. The high-level benefit or objective of this activity is definitely a healthy backlog and an improved satisfaction to the user base. We have been trying this approach in the Express repo for the last 6 months or so with great success. So the modus operandi or how it works is anybody who has fair understanding about the JavaScript ecosystem can come and request for a triage access, which is, I think, it's like a semi-access to the repo with labeling and basic triaging role itself as defined by the GitHub. And then, as a natural extension, they can become collaborators. I don't think we need to change the rule or criteria for becoming a collaborator. So for a subset of the team members, we have seen that they don't really need to become a collaborator. They don't aspire for that. But for another subset, it becomes a natural extension. And probably for another set, they need to go through the regular process of becoming a collaborator. So all combinations we have seen.
So if it's primarily a responsibility, well, one of the primary responsibilities is labeling the issues. They would need write access to the repo, right?
There is a triage role which is defined by GitHub, which I don't think is a complete write access to the repo.
Okay. Okay.
So,
okay, I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
thanks.
essentially means labeling, mentioning the team members, and closing and reopening issues.
Oh, I see. It's in beta.
Yeah, it's a fairly new feature that sort of enabled the Express experiment.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sounds
given
great to
that
me.
we have quite many areas in the backlog, which I mean, the actual problem statement which I presented in the Collab Summit is the fact that there are 5 or 6 or 7 people who are dedicating their time or spending the best of their time in reducing the backlog, but it's definitely not sustainable and scalable. I myself tried in the past, but I failed because individual efforts are not going to bring that number down over a period of time. It's possible to make results, show visible progress, etc. But in the long run, I think we need a more robust system. As many number of people who can contribute to that, the more people come and join the team, the better.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely worth trying, and we should move ahead with it.
I think, Jarish, the other benefit you mentioned is that the triages also kind of get together and discuss, and it sort of forms a team where, like you said, it's less of an individual effort and can be more of a team effort. So.
Yeah, that's right. So once the TSC agrees in principle, the next step we could think about is having a forum for triagers to think and sit and discuss various issues and apply some collective thought around that to attack this issue in a more team-based manner. And then a natural extension to that comes in the form of established and experienced collaborators joining those forums and providing guidance about what is the area where they can look at, or lecturing a specific aspect of an API, or taking some class on some C++ internals whatsoever. That will basically improve the overall triage process as well, and eventually the quality of triage also can improve.
Are there any concerns with going forward with something like this?
Or just endorsements and support? Anyone?
Yep.
Yeah, sounds pretty good to me.
And
I guess the next.
Mateus has +1 in the chat just for posterity.
Okay. So maybe I guess a PR that adds in the triage role is the next step.
Makes sense. Yeah. I can take up that action.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess moving on to the next issue, rename default branch from master to main or something similar. I think, I'm not sure if this needs to remain on the agenda. We talked a bit about it last week, and Miles reflected, I think, what our kind of consensus has been is that we want to wait and see what GitHub comes out with. General answer is yes, just want to be able to use common practice tools to do it. So we're kind of just waiting to see what happens on that front before it moves forward. Do people think this should stay on the agenda or should come back to the agenda if there's a specific question?
I'm sorry, I've now completely lost track of the plot. Which issue is this?
This is 33864, renaming the default branch from master to main.
Oh yeah, I'm okay with leaving it and having it recur every week. I'm also okay with popping it off and letting it come back when we're ready to move. I guess I slightly favor just leaving it on.
Yeah, I have no strong feeling one way or the other either. So if people are happy to leave it on, maybe we should just do that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is Bootstrap, include Bootstrap environment in built-in snapshots. I don't think we have, I mean, I don't know if there's anything new in the issue, or Anna, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
So I know that this has been discussed at some point during one of the TSC meetings. I don't exactly remember what the outcome of that was, but I mean, I don't see any reason why it needs to stay on the agenda, but I'm also not the one who put it on the agenda. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I think last week I'm remembering James was in the call, and we were still discussing how we would get more input on the high level. Like there was two, his outline was there were two approaches. They had pluses and minuses, and I think he still thought that there was value in getting more input on the choices that are being made by going one way or the other.
I would completely agree with that, but that's just not happening. And in that case, we might as well just go one route instead of not doing anything at all.
Right, and I think the only thing that that was suggested last week was like the PR and write up. It a couple of people had looked at it, but it's obviously like a multi-hour effort to get into. And the only question was whether like it would be useful to have a higher level. Could people understand a higher level issue? Like for example, I think the one that was mentioned was, in one case you'll add user code, in the other case you won't add user code. So that's something I think people could understand. Maybe that's not true.
It's not exactly what's happening, no. So I mean, like my original pull request was made with the intention of making it easier to implement user-line snapshotting on top of it.
Okay.
It's also possible to do that with Joy's PR. As I mentioned in the PR, I think that's a lot of extra work, and it's extra work that I'm not really willing to put in because I try to avoid that extra work. But I'm assuming that Joy is willing to do that, and that it's okay.
Right. So
and so I mean, there are two main points of contention, and one is just like a technicality where I would say, okay, so I think there's a good software engineering approach to this, and that gives us the answer, which is the better one, but it's not important. And the other one, yeah, so I want something that is easily extensible to user-line snapshotting, and that means picking a specific way of serializing data into binary blobs, which is something that we have to do. And yeah, so
okay, so you're thinking, so like it was kind of like the discussion last time was, is there any value trying to pull out just those couple of high level things and having trying to have get input on those? Like it sounds like what you're saying is you can it's not like one prevents the other. Like it's not like, say, user level snapshotting is impossible with one approach and possible with the other, but it's subtler than that, but it's easier with one versus the other.
that is my subjective opinion. Yeah. I mean, like, so Joy did her best to pull out the high level points into the design doc that she made and shared somewhere. I don't know where, but
Yeah, the links findable through the issue, I think.
yeah, I think so.
Right, I guess, yeah, it was only like if they could be boiled up to something higher, we might get some discussion. Because like you said, the discussion isn't happening, and I think it's just because everybody who's gone to taking a look has seen there's just it wasn't like a here's 3 points like user level snapshotting or not. It was like a lot of detail. But
yeah, so I mean, I can try to sum up the main point of contention in like a single sentence if you want, which is should we serialize the internal data that we use for snapshot into binary blobs or into C++ data structures? And so the binary blob thing is the one that is easily extensible to userland snapshotting, because in that case, you will have to store things on disk in a binary format. You can't expect everybody to compile C++ code when they want to load a snapshot.
right.
I think the main advantage that Joy sees in her approach, which is compiling to C++ data structures, is that we're building the snapshot into Node.js as a C++ file. We might as well use the fact that C++ comes with things like built-in type checking that we can detect at compile time when we're doing something that isn't working out the way we want it to. Yeah, so that is the main question there, I think.
Okay, and it's okay. So that's an interesting. I don't know if that people have any thoughts on that.
I don't think that a TSC meeting is going to resolve this issue. I think we need. I think
Yeah.
either we can just, Anna has offered to just say, okay, let's do it Joy's way. We can go that route. James would rather not, it seems, and I think if Anna had her way, she would rather not go this route. And I think part of the problem is that James is in California, Anna's in Germany.
Right. Yep.
And Joy, I believe right now is in China. And so like getting the three of them together to talk about it, I'm not even sure that would resolve anything, but like, yeah, I mean, if anybody here has put in the time to fully understand this issue or is available to put in the time to fully understand this issue, please speak up. But otherwise, I don't think a TSC meeting is going to ever resolve this issue.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
So I think then like the recommendation is to take it off the agenda. Is that the?
I mean, that's what Anna suggested initially, but I
Right.
think Girish is about to say something, I think.
Yeah, I tried, I put some effort to understand top-down approach, like trying to understand the high-level use case, and then the design, and then the code. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to follow the complete context and the contention point. So if possible, a meeting with all the parties involved offline to the TSC and having a technical discussion, I would like to participate in that and get to the next level and see if I can provide some suggestions. At this point, I don't think I can make any suggestions in either way.
So I guess it comes back to the earlier question of, and Rich kind of outlined where we're at. It takes energy to do that. And if it's like, if it's at the point where people who are involved are like, okay, we're okay with moving this forward with the PR that's still open, versus trying to change that, then I don't know if we have volunteers to do that, right? is where I'm thinking.
But I guess the intent of bringing it to the TSC is part of the reason is also to resolve and make progress, right? Resolve the contentious point and make some progress if the TSC is able to provide any help on that front.
So, I mean, it seems safe to assume that Joy would be happy to move forward with the approach that she is advocating for. And Anna has expressed willingness to let that happen. And so the only reason this is being held up at this point is that James has called for a discussion. And so unless there are other, and I agree with, I mean, if I understand where Dries is coming from in what he just said, I agree that it is the TSC's role to resolve these sorts of disputes in approach as best we can. I'm just not sure that I'm just not sure that trying to get involved and trying to push for some kind of education and resolution is going to I would expect that to increase frustration rather than to smooth things out. Although I would want Anna to confirm that.
I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't see any particular reason why we couldn't have a meaningful discussion about the points of contention. But yeah, it requires people to put in time. And
So I mean, I think what I can see is that like having it on the agenda here, like we either need a volunteer who's going to set up that separate meeting or next step, and the sort of the desire for that to happen. Otherwise, just leaving it on the agendas and having us talk about it for a little bit in this meeting doesn't seem to be making progress. So
I'd be interested to leave some space right here to hear what some of the people who haven't said anything think ought to be done with this issue, like Dan and Shelley and Bethany and Tobias and Colin and Ruben and Matthias, just to name everybody who hasn't spoken.
Yeah, can I ask a question about this? Would it be possible to have both like a C++ way of doing it just for like our internal things, and then have it like a blob on device system for like user code that we, for lack of a better word, like be snapshotable? I'm thinking like a container environment where they want, fast startups and stuff like that.
so you are echoing pretty heavily for me. But if I understood you correctly, so yeah, I think Joy is basically advocating that we use two different serializers, one for the internal snapshot that we build into the binary, and one for userland code after we're done with that.
Okay, thanks. Is that better now, by the way?
It's a lot better, yeah.
Sorry about that.
So given that, does that make you, Dan, lean towards that approach?
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at the issue. I've actually had it on one of my tabs here for a while, but I haven't been able to get around to it. But I should be able to get some time next week. So I will definitely take a closer look.
Any of the other people Rich was calling out to?
guess with that, we're probably okay to leave it on for another week. And
Sure. Yep. Okay. Let's leave it on until next week, and
and call out Dan to weigh in on it.
sounds good. Anything more we want to discuss on that one before we move on?
Thank you, Dan.
If not, the next one's really just on there as a reminder, so we don't forget about the audit access. I haven't seen any comments that say that that's moved forward yet, though, so nothing to discuss. In terms of strategic initiatives, I'm going to flip back to the issue to see if there's any info there. Oh, wait a sec. Sorry, I seem to have unpaused. Okay, so I'm flipping over to the issue to see what we've got there. Hold on. Okay, so the only strategic initiative update I see is build resources, which really no update this week, although I should mention that it looks like Johan is getting one of our past significant contributors is finding more time to get involved, so that's great. And I think that'll help out on that front. And I guess the other thing I could say is there is a meeting that's going to be scheduled to give the Linux IT team some more feedback just in terms of the initial scope that we'd documented as an area that we might get some help in. Let me go over to the list of strategic initiatives just to see if we can get updates on in-person updates on any of those. Hold on. There we go. Just looking at the people we have here and the match with that. I guess I don't see any other than board. We don't have people who are champions for any of the others. So at this point, I guess, is there any other business that we want to talk about before we close out? If not, thanks for everybody's time, and we'll talk to everybody in GitHub and next time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.